Welcome to Morocco and uh, 25 laps ahead of us as we wait for the drivers. All drivers currently doing warm-up laps. Um, and we have an exciting race ahead of us. Um, as we see on the track that is Jules Rothschild getting in the only man on the track right now. Getting those precious lap times in. Um, as we wait for the drivers of these crucial warm-up laps. They should be making their way down into the pit lane. As Jules Rothschild is expected to be lining up on pole, as we hear that English boy Drake made a shock retirement, sacrificing his pole position to effectively gave it to Jules Rothschild as he makes his way down to turn 1 now. Majority of the drivers waiting in the pit lane. Now we expect Sanosora to line up on the front row alongside Jules Rothschild, and that should be exciting as the clock counts down. Another note to mention is that Sanosora has transferred from Nissan to BMW Andretti Motorsport, which is surprising as we note that only happened a couple of minutes before the race. That deal was confirmed. Sanosora getting to the Super Bowl by the skin of his teeth through the group stages. And so did Cam Cathcart, but Cathcart not attend tonight. And we expect a few places to be given, switching around tonight. Now ahead of this race, we have 25 laps to see drivers' efforts, and at the end of those 25 laps we'll have to see how each driver does. But currently English boy Drake, although he has retired, is still in the lead of the championship by I think it is 9 points, but I am not sure. As we can confirm that a new driver is starting tonight as a reserve driver for Chichisa, which is very interesting. I assume he will be struggling tonight as he has never raced on this track before, alongside a lot of other drivers as well. We can all expect a exciting race ahead of us, as Envision Virgin Racing start to line up as well ahead of his Moroccan Grand Prix. In Marrakesh, in the mountains, so we have a flat basin, although the map doesn't quite represent that. As the drivers seem to be doing odd things with their car, as we wait for the directory to guide them to the pit lane and form up on the grid. Now the all go has been given to line up at the pit lane. We'll see the cars make their way down to the pit lane exits as the pre-race build-up starts and the grid talk will happen. And we see Jules Rothschild again on pole position line up for this race. Jules Rothschild making his way around the track to form up on the grid as the pre-race build-up continues. And Cheese Greater Mayfair crashes into the wall and goes backwards again, as we see this is what happened to Sanosora, but he seems to have crashed into the wall again, making a stylish entrance, but I'm not sure what the stewards are going to say about that. We'll have to see later in the race. The dangerous re-entry on the pit lane. A penalty maybe, but I'm not quite sure. As we expect Sanosora to do the same. Very oddly, I'm not sure how that's going to go down well with the stewards, but we'll just have to wait and see. Uh, this may affect their race at the end of the race. As we wait for the new reserve driver for Techeetah. He will be starting P6 today. As he makes his way around the track for the outlap. As we see BMW and, well, it's a BMW P2 and B3 it seems. Jules Rothschild lining up on pole at the front row. Edwin Attenborough in the Mercedes EQ makes his way around as well. Good solid performance from him yesterday. In qualifying. And as I can give him, Greater Mayfair will not be third, will be starting fourth instead. And Cheese does comply and he moves to grid position of fourth, just behind his teammates, Sanosora. So as we see it right now, it will be Jules Rothschild, Sanosora, Edward Attenborough, Cheese Greater Mayfair, and they cannot pronounce his name. That would be the Techeetah reserve driver. Will the tactical butter making his way round again. We see the two Envision version racing cars, the full team name there. They are starting at the back of the grid. Surprising since Atop did qualify on pole last time around in the Cayman Islands. This suggests that he didn't attend yesterday, which is a shame, but we all know he does live in Australia, so that is not entirely his fault as grid starts to build up. Just a few more minutes and we will be underway for the Marrakesh E-Prix. Adam, well, grated cheese Mayfair, known as Adam, warming up his tyres while weaving. Good solid performance from this driver from yesterday, even though he did not qualify. He did have a reserve driver, but we know in FP1 he did put in some solid lap times, and we know he has good potential for the race. He makes his way very quickly down to the grid to start off, and we will just get confirmation of where he is starting. He is starting, well, he should be starting P7. As Tactical Butter and the reserve driver for Techeetah has swapped positions to P6 and P7 while lining up. And again, they swap again to promote him to P7. That will be, I believe, a top making his way around the track to form up on the grid as we get ready to start the Marrakesh E-Prix in Morocco. And the Envision Virgin Racing Formula E car makes his way and has stopped at, I believe that would be P9 on the grid. As we get ready for the final two cars to form up on this grid. And that is Officer, no idea how to spell or pronounce his surname, but he makes his way down to the grid and we expect him to form up at P10. Well, no, P9, that is, and the last car to form up on the grid, that will be AJ4, makes his way around the track to form up. Last, unfortunately, that will see him last in P10 for this E-Prix. Although he did not set a time in qualifying. So those cars who did not go to the back of the grid as expected. And we see a tightly formed pack here in Marrakesh, and we are very close to getting underway. As the last car makes its way around last sector. Heading down to the penultimate corner. He makes his way very slowly through the final chicane to line up last in P10 on the grid, and we await two lights. Very interesting grid formation, both for the Envision Virgin Racing, those cars at the back of the grid, well, P9 and P10 lining up at the back. And we get very close, and we are very close to starting the race, getting underway for the Marrakesh E-Prix. Just final checks for each car, making sure they are behind the yellow line. As we see most of the cars are doing. We will be watching quite carefully, see if any of the drivers break that regulation set by the FIA. And it comes down to this. 10 cars. down into turn one. We'll see how that happens and plays out. And we get confirmation that the drivers should be getting ready. And we get the final call of confirmation that they are ready. And the 5 red lights. Here we go in Marrakesh. 5 red lights. And we go green. And I believe that will be a penalty for Cheese Grater Mayfair. Also expected. I'm not sure. We have to confirm that on the replay, but he takes the early lead with the BMW. Unlucky for Asano Sora, he drops back into what seems to be well, we'll have to wait for the sector to catch up, but Cheese Grater Mayfair in the lead. That is, I believe, with 5 wide through the chicane. Cheese Grater Mayfair still in the lead somehow. Jules Rothschild tucking in behind Edward Attenborough, and Edward Attenborough in P3. Asano Sora makes his way up to P4. The time's come in now, and that is he hits the wall. Cheese Grater Mayfair, he hits the wall. Jules Rothschild, will he get into that P1 position? We just don't know. The Envision car gets up into what seems to be P3 right now. We see him on the leaderboard, and will he jump for P2? We just don't know. And the other car, the other Envision, right down into seems to be P7 right now. The field's still tightly packed as we head into the first lap, completed already, and that is Cheese Grater Mayfair. He goes very wide. He picks up the speed, and that would be A-Top, who hits the wall in the first turn. Jules Rothschild now takes the lead of the race, but not for long, as through the chicane section he concedes to Cheese Grater Mayfair. Closely behind Edward Attenborough in P3. We see as A-Top now in P4. That's a crash from Asano Sora dropping right back into P7. Probably P8 now. And these back cars not doing well at all. We need to keep processing that. From a exciting race start, that's Jules Rothschild in the lead now. Alongside him, Edward Attenborough in P2. And the stewards are looking into an inquiry about Cheese Grater Mayfair and his early start, which potentially could harm his race. And there's a crash in seems to be the third sector. Sanosora not having a great race at all as he crashes again, hits the wall. As we see Jules Rothschild and Cheese Grater Mayfair still battling it out, but we just don't quite know if he still has a penalty yet. We're still sourcing that from stewards, and we're still discussing whether he did go early or not, but we have it on stream to decide whether he did go early. That is Jules Rothschild in the lead now. 5 tenths split them. Very close. Edward Attenborough in third, has a very solid performance. But again, Jules Rothschild slightly hitting the wall. That brings them closer again through that second sector as they make their run, or they make the run down to the third sector. We see that Jules Rothschild still in the lead just, but will he get out on top? Yes, he does, through that third sector, at the start of the third sector. As we shift our focus to the back of the grid, and that's Sanosora crashing again. Very unlike him to crash like that, as now basically a second splits Jules Rothschild and Cheese Grater Mayfair. But Edward Attenborough looking on the jump for that second place. He immediately on the back of Cheese Grater Mayfair, and the gap starts to form between the top three. Very interesting stuff. As there is a, well, slight collision at the first turn with a top and what seems to be Adam O'Connor, Grated Cheese Mayfair. Again, Asano right up in, well, fifth place. He's not had a good race at all for the start of the race, but we still have 25 laps, and we'll just have to see as 2 seconds nearly split, and that is Cheese Grater Mayfair down into third place as we see him struggle slightly, but not to worry, we'll have to watch him as they make their way down to the main straight. That is Cheese Grater Mayfair down very far. Well, compared to the top two. We'll have to see between Edward Attenborough and Jules Rothschild. Very close. Not as close as they were before, but very close indeed. That's 2 second gap. We'll have to see where it splits in the chicane section. We do now see that there is a 2 second gap still. They're still maintaining that gap. Very consistent with the driver himself as we already start to hit back markers from the grid. That would be, again, that's a spin. We don't like to see that. That is the Venturi car spinning. And we'll just have to see how that ends up. Cheese Grater Mayfair, he leaves the game. Interestingly, he has now ruined his chances of getting up into those podium positions since he was in P3. That is detrimental to BMW. I would have thought he would have stayed to get those easy points, but he has left his car in the middle of the track as the marshals clear that up. Now, as we enter the static stage of the race, a lot of cars split up here, although we see Jules Rothschild keeping his cool for those tricky corners. As we know, this is a major step up compared to last weekend. And 3 seconds now gap to Jules Rothschild, Edwin Attenborough, massive in Formula E. And what we want to see is some dramatic battles out there between those cars, and a back marker has got in the way. That would be Adam O'Connor. Oh no, that is tactical butter between the drivers. Yeah, Jules Rothschild crosses the line again. Bridges that gap even further. 5 seconds now. Officer in P8, not what we want to see. That's a bit of a shame. He has never raced on this track before. As the times already enter the 1 lap mark. A lot of cars being lapped we see through this race. Very interesting. We'll just have to see how it plays out for another, well, we see 6 laps completed. We haven't got many more left. We got a quarter of the race. It's nearly been completed, quarter of the race. We've still got a majority of the race to go. But you start to enter more of a calmed race through lap 7, as 6 laps have been completed. That'll be Jules Rothschild crossing the line just now, and Edward Attenborough closely following suit. See that gap has been bridged slightly closer. We'll just have to see the remaining laps. We've still got a hefty amount of laps to go through this race. And seems to be a slight battle. Oh, there he makes a lunge into turn one. That's Adam up in, well, Greater Cheese Mayfair up into P3, it seems. Dinosaur dropping down to P4, and we'll just have to see that in the sector, and we'll have to see whether he comes out on top. But no, he doesn't. Sanosaur back up into, oh, and that's Adam. He's crashed. They both crashed on the same corner. Who gets the jump? It's Adam. No, that's tactical butter, so it will not be counted, and that's Adam way up into P3. As a solid gap bridges between the top three. That's, I reckon, it'll be a two-horse race the remaining of the session. But a gap is bridged even more. We want to see, well, we want to focus on those midfield battles as we see in the midfield. It seems that Aton not really making a big impression to this race. We'll just have to see. And that's Grated Cheese Mayfair down. He makes a mistake, it seems, and he's down into P5. I did not quite clip that. We'll just have to see. He's crashed into turn one. Very unfortunate. He has been doing very well up to now. Atop making no real round, but we'll have to see. And again, the Tachita reserve driver leaves the race after not making any impression at all. Expected, as he never drove this track before. But the main talking point will be Jules Rothschild, and he has taken this race by storm as he enters that tricky chicane section. On his way to lap AJ4 in the Envision car. And after that, his teammates, Officer. Adaman seems to be Butter, still battling it out. Well, not actually, he won't be battling it out. He has lapped Butter, it seems, as the track, well, the field is not close at all. It was at around the first 3 laps, it was pretty close. What seems to be now not very close at all. But we still see a threat from Edward Attenborough and Jules Rothschild. They're still battling it out for P1, P2. But that gap is bridging even further, and I don't see it coming down anytime soon, as Jules now laps the Envision car, and his teammate, it seems, very interesting. It seems they can't quite get a foothold in this race, but as it seems, we're on lap 11 now. Well, Jules is anyway. Lap 11, it seems, and he makes his way to the start line. He's just entering the third sector, and he will be making his way down to the start line to start a new lap. And that seems to be Adam again colliding on the last corner of this track, in this circuit. I'd just like to say that these drivers are doing very well for a what seems to be a very exhausting race. And I know as that turn one is very difficult to navigate around. Average speed around that, around 30 mile an hour. As we see that, is very cautious braking from Edwin Attenborough there. No real major talking points for this E-Prix. Jules again leading by storm. Seems to be now a legitimate 17-second gap, as we can confirm as both drivers cross that sector, marking it down. We'll just have to wait for the other drivers to cross the sector. What an interesting race is being displayed here. But we'll just have to see who who comes out on top. Jules again through that turn one corner does it very well. This is where he's making the time through this first sector. He's nailing every corner, tad braking. He does hit the wall there though, surprisingly. Not like we want to see that. Partially affecting his tyres, and as we see, tyre degradation is a problem around Morocco, which is a genuine feature that has been implemented. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Will we have some last minute crashes? But as it comes down to it, personally, I don't think a crash at this stage will be very detrimental to Jules's race, as he is now 19 seconds ahead of the field. Absolutely astonishing from the driver. And I'm putting forward that he has a decent shot at the championship. Only scoring, I think it was 4th last race. A bit unfortunate, but we see that the championship will be decided after this race. Well, whoever leading the championship will be decided. Adam O'Connor, through that last chicane, nails it perfectly. He has had a lot of practice around this track. I just feel that the nerves have gotten to him tonight as he scuffs that corner slightly. Edward Attenborough following suit. He wants to get past these back markers as quick as possible. Get through. Jules Rothschild again storming through. I will not be surprised if Jules managed to not only win this race, but absolutely blow away Edward Attenborough and the rest of the field. As we see that Edward Attenborough in a completely different sector now. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. Interesting stuff as A-Top again in 3rd position. Not sure how he's made his way up there, but again we did have 2 drivers leave the race unexpectedly. And penalties have been confirmed that they will be given out at the end of this race. Mega Machines and myself have been discussing, and we can confirm that both drivers who, well, let me just see, I believe it was Cheese Grater Mayfair and 2 other drivers that will have to confirm, but a confirmed penalty will be given at the end of the race. Whether this is a grid place penalty, we are still in discussion about, but this is still being decided, as he has currently left the race. Jules coming up to the line again to start the 16th lap. Um, we've obviously surpassed that halfway mark on lap 12, but we come on to the closing stages of the race. I'm sure that all drivers will be either delighted or distraught that they ended in the position that they are now. I'm sure Jules will be delighted though, and I also know Edward Attenborough will be as well. But we'll just have to see what the gap is now. He's very far behind Jules. Jules has seemed to taken off. It's just those slight corners that Edward Attenborough seems to be slightly missing out on. Uh, again, through that chicane, slightly touches the wall. As we have no real battles in this closing stage of the race. Seems to have thinned out the pack, and the skill set has been given. Again, Cheese Greater Mayfair has left the game, meaning a penalty will be given for next weekend, confirmed by Mega Machines, as he did indeed start early. I will have to confirm the other drivers, but it seems a Venturi did pull away too quickly as well. Which gave Cheese Greater Mayfair the early lead at lap 1. Jules quickly having a swift battle with Cheese, but not now. It's all, I'd say it's decided. I'd be very surprised if Jules did not take the victory here. Again, that field very split, and they're almost on the opposite side of the track to each other. That is from P2 to P1. We'll just have to check for this sector to see who really, well, to see the gap develop. It seems Edward Attenborough is coming up to that section now. Let's see, the gap is 50 seconds. 50-second gap between P1 and P2, absolutely astonishing. Very surprising. I'd be very surprised, and I said this again, I'd be very surprised if Jules does not win this race. Something detrimental would have to occur to that to happen. Again, AJ coming up for his second lapping of the race. Quite a short circuit, so I'm not surprised that we're having at least one car being lapped this race. There seems to be a large skill gap between the front runners and the back markers, as we have majority of the drivers still running in this race. Lap 18 we go on to. No, we go on to lap 19 now. And Jules still commanding the race. Nothing else really. You have to see in that midfield. Well, what we see now is and that is a battle between Asano Sora and A-Top. Asano slightly crashing through that sector. Sector 2. Surprising, as we know he is a very skilled driver. And he goes through that penultimate corner now. We'll just start to see if this battle develops between A-Top and Asano Sora, and that's he took that very slow. That brings the gap closer between Sora and A-Top, but just have to see how this develops. They enter the chicane section. Sora is stalling his tail slightly. If A-Top makes a slight mistake, that'll be him being pressured as we make the run down onto the first straight of this circuit. And A-Top on his way to the third sector. Again, that lap slightly developing. I mean, the gap between P1 and P2 is absolutely phenomenal. 1 minute 10, that is almost one lap ahead of each, at least of each driver. That, from Jules, that is quite astonishing. As we know, English boy Drake would have made it slightly more tense, but he did have to retire, it seems. He left BMW last night, and that's what's brought Sano Sora, previously in Nissan, up into BMW. And he seems to be commanding that car very well, but he is losing time through those tricky corners. We'll just have to see how well he does. Through what seems to be lap 21, we're nearly finishing this race. What we know now, there's no way Jules can concede to Edward Attenborough, but what would be interesting would be a battle between Sano Sora and A-Top, which seems ever more unlikely as he then hits the wall again. But nonetheless, this will be a P4 for Sora. Bit disappointing as he did start P2, but it is what it is. He makes his way through. And it seems like we have confirmation that both Nissan drivers did start early alongside Cheese Greater Mayfair. That will be penalties at the end of this race. However, I'm not sure how much difference that will make. I'm just going to take a look at both Nissan drivers. Sheets to be Grated Cheese Mayfair and Tactical Butter, and he makes, well, Cheese Grated Mayfair makes his way through the third sector through these final corners. Lap 22 we are on, and Jules making his way through that chicane section again. Again, commanding this race all the way through. Well, all the way up to lap 22. And he made his way through the third sector, finishing up on that second sector. This gap between P1 and P2, I stress again, is phenomenal. We haven't really seen anything like it, especially since the last race was very close, as the gap has been reduced to 10. Well, it was 108. It's now 127. That may be a sector issue, but it seems we have a full list of those who started early at the start. That would be Cheese Grated Mayfair, Grated Cheese Mayfair, and Officer and Tactical Butter. That will see them penalties, but so we'll have to see how much effect that really does have, as Sora does get past A-Top. He is now up into P3. Not sure quite when that happened, but he is up into P3. Get a onboard display of that. Jules still commanding the race as we see Sano Sora P3. A-Top not really making a big impression. and these penalties will not make a great deal of change as these margins are so big. Tactical butter crossing the line. Not much difference there. He is down in 7th, so it is one of it is. Jules still up in there. A 1-3-3 is the gap we see now. And a penalty discussion will be decided at the end of this race. Lap 24, we are closing ever nearer onto the end of this race, and we want to see Jules command all the way to the end as he has done so far. Lap 25, this is it, the final lap we go on to. Turn 1, nailed by Jules, commanding all the way through turn 2, turn 3 there. We see him go all the way through the chicane section, that'd be turn 4 and turn 5. Turn 6, we see him nail those corners. Turn 7 we go into. Pitch perfect turn 8 there. Onto the main straight we go. This is it. We grow ever nearer to that final sector, and that will be turn 9 there, turn 10 there. He goes onto the second straight of this circuit. And we go on to the penultimate corner for Jules Rothschild, commanding all the way through this race. Last corner, all he has to do is bring it home. And he crosses the line, and he wins the Marrakesh GP. Astonishing drive from the young driver, Jules Rothschild. Commanding all the way through. An astonishing gap we see. A 109 gap. Absolutely ridiculous. Phenomenal drive. That is Edward Attenborough coming to the final corner. He takes P2 home today. Asano Sora on his way as well. Last corner, perfect. And that will be P3 for him as well. Good drive, solid drive from him. Will be slightly disappointed that he didn't finish up there. P4 for Ator. Grated Cheese Mayfair. Not quite sure. He did finish in 5th. The Identical Insult, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. P6, Tactical Butter, P7, Officer, P8, and it ripples off that. It seems the reserve driver to Cheetah, P9. Cheese Greater Mayfair, he will not be happy with that. Well, actually no, he did not finish the race, that'll be 0 points for those drivers as they head to the pit lane. Podium celebrations will happen shortly, but I'm sure we'll want to get interviews with all drivers before the session ends. Great race overall. I believe each driver will be happy with their performance. Great drive from Jules and Edward alike. Solid performance from top three. Great battle between Atop and Sanosaur. We'll love to see that. Jules commanding his victory all the way through. We'll have to get a interview with Jules, Edward and Sora, but disappointing for BMW. Great drive with Sora though. Swiftly put into BMW earlier today. As the podium is currently being set up for the drivers to participate in the study podium celebration. But we're going to have to get interviews with all the drivers. If we could request a interview with Asano Sora to start off with P3, and we'll work our way up to P2, P1 after. So we could drag Sora.
Hello.
As Sanosaur makes his way into voice chat, could we get the camera on him as he took a confident drive in the new team? What do you have to say about the performance you had today?
Well, when I was going quite fast around the track, it was really rocky and it cut me off guard, so like half the time I was spinning around corners, but I managed to recover and get into
Yeah, we do know this track has issues with bumpiness, which I believe threw off all of the drivers today. But a solid performance from you. Are you happy with P3, or do you believe that you could have got more?
Considering my circumstances at the start, I'm pretty happy with it. But I'm not
Yeah, well, even though you did start P2, you're still happy with it.
even though, because I did mess up quite a bit at the start.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers did jump the start. They got penalties and they got confirmed penalties for the end of this race. What do you have to say to those drivers who disregarded the rules today?
Well, I don't really care, to be fair. They can play whatever game they want. They just won't really win any races.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting view. It caught you off guard at the start of the race. Although you did command your way up to P3, you did drop back down to P7. So to be fair, I would say that is a solid performance from you. Do you have anything else to say before we move to the second drive?
Cheese is angry.
Yeah, we did see that he did quit the game mid-race. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, considering what happened, I'm not surprised. He was up in third place, was doing decent, and then he spun out. But honestly, if that was me, I'd just keep going because I might be able to still recover. That's what I kept doing.
Yeah, well, great drive. I hope you had had good fun racing. What are your ambitions for next weekend? P1, P2, or?
Yeah, P1 and P2, either which.
Yeah. So you're gonna be battling out with Jules Rothschild next weekend. We're gonna bring on Atop now, as he's dragging into the VC. And the podium is still being set up. We could get a interview with ATOP. And ATOP is in uh the VC. Oh wait, no. He will be in here shortly. ATOP, if possible. ATOP has entered the VC. If we could get a short interview with ATOP. P4, uh,
Mhm.
solid result from where you started. Back of the
Yeah,
grid, P9, P10ish. What do you have to
yeah,
say about that?
yeah. It's quite solid. I had chances on Asano to get P3, but I didn't make them go through. Um, First lap was kind of hectic. Yeah,
Yeah, we saw through the race, you had a small battle with Asano Sora. Are you disappointed that you conceded to him, or is it just racing?
yeah. I'm disappointed I conceded to him. I clipped the turn at, I believe, one of the straight turns. And I
Right.
spun like, and then he catches up to me, and then yeah, he just overtook me.
Yeah, we saw that on the stream in the footage. I'd say overall solid drive.
Yeah,
Do you have anything else to say?
I'm quite
As we
happy that how I performed here. I only had like 2 laps of practice. Didn't show up to qualifying because I was sleeping, and Jules had like 10, like the whole hour of practice, a
Yeah,
whole
we saw
hour
him
of
put in
qualifying.
the most practice of anybody else here, and that's really seemed to show through into the rate well into the race today. We
So I'm guessing next track is Berlin.
Yeah, we're racing in Berlin next weekend.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of my favorite tracks. I actually raced there not quite long ago for another league.
Yeah,
And I did quite well. So
should
yeah,
be
I'll
interesting.
see you guys later.
Well, goodbye. Um, that was a top. Good solid performance from him today. We we get a interview with Jules Rothschild, or I'm not sure. Right. We could get an interview with Grated Cheese Mayfair, who is P5. And he is in the VC. Adam.
I win it.
Yeah. How did you think your performance was today?
I had it at the start. I was starting off at like P3, then I had a crash like halfway through, and I fucked it there. Sent me back to P5.
Yeah, and we did see that you started early, according to Mega Machines Race Control. What do
Everybody
you have
started
to say
early.
about that?
Everybody
Well,
started early.
according to the footage, we saw that three cars started early, which
I will.
resulted in a penalty. That really
I
didn't
will.
have much effect on your race, did it really?
No, I didn't really give a shit.
Yeah,
I was contemplating doing it in reverse then. I said, fuck it, I might just give up.
Yeah, you came
Anyway,
a solid
huh?
P5. You came a
Yeah,
solid P5, so good
yeah,
race.
I'm mental. I'm mental, yeah, I'm mental. Up to
That was Adam,
She's great to me for the rage quit.
and remarking about cheese grater Mayfair. We're just getting word on when the podium will be happening. I'm quite sure. I believe the podium is happening here, but I'm not too sure. As the drivers line up for the podium, you see Edward Attenborough lining up in P2. Your top three were Jules Rothschild, Edward Attenborough, and Sana Sora. Um, each driver doing very well to secure those top three places in a very tight race. As the podium celebrations will be starting shortly. The drivers make their way out of the car. Main celebrations have finished. As we wait for Berlin next weekend. In a week's time. And that is it for Morocco. It's all over. A shock win from Jules Rothschild. Starting on pole, he dominated all the way through this round. Well, E-Pro. Uh, it's all over. Marrakesh. Its first debut to season 1 has concluded, and we'd like to see you all in Berlin in exactly 1 week's time. Thank you for coming to watch this stream. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Discord as we await for Berlin.